Hello everyone, my name is Tomasz Poszytek. In this video I will show you how you can actually send adaptive cards to Outlook as an actionable message. Now, during the last Power Apps community call, I was showcasing my solution where I use adaptive cards as actionable messages to send approval tasks to Outlook and then grab the response and complete the workflow. And many of you asked if there is any kind of guidance, step-by-step instruction about what you have to actually do to accomplish it, or to be able to send your own actionable messages to Outlook. And so, because I couldn't find one, I decided to record it myself. So let's begin. Now, the first thing you have to know is that you can always, without any further rules or prerequisites, send an actionable message to your own inbox. Let it be from the designer or from Flow. So if you go to the Actionable Messages designer, and then you just pick the first possible, and you hit send, and you're signed in because you have to be signed in, and you hit send, and then after a moment you'll notice that there is a new email in your inbox, and that once you open it, it actually loads you this actionable message, and it really requires no prerequisites. No steps to complete prior to sending that. Now, if you think of sending this actionable message to anyone else in your organization or just any other user, then you actually need to make some steps. So first step is to go to Actionable Messages Developer Console, or so-called the Actionable Email Developer Dashboard, and you have to register the new provider. Now, there are three kinds of providers you can register. The first one is for test users. So here you define what email addresses from your tenant, preferably, you would like to use as those test accounts which will be, let's say, permitted to receive those emails. Now, the point about this provider is that once an Outlook receives email that contains actionable message, it has to be able to look up and verify that the provider which is sending this message is actually permitted to do so. And therefore you have to register this provider. So the first option is to use the test users. Here you just define a semicolon delimited list of email addresses where you would like to test and send these messages. Very easy, and it requires no approval. Now, the second step is the organization, or the second level, the second scope is the organization. Here you need to get the Exchange admin approval prior to be able to use this provider. And this is actually the scope that I will be using today, so to show you how this procedure looks like and how you can use it. And the last scope is the global one. And this scope actually requires an approval from, someone in Microsoft. Once you submit it for approval, then it goes to someone in Microsoft. And then before you get this approval, you cannot use it. And I will not be using this one. So let's focus on the organization scope. Now, first thing you have to do, you need to provide the friendly name. And also, the URL address that you want to use, the email address. So you can define multiple senders, multiple accounts which will be permitted to use this originator. I'll just use mine. Now, the next thing is you have to as well define the target URL. So where this actionable message is going to be permitted to send data from. So once there is a form, like in my example here, and then once I hit submit, then these contents will be sent somewhere. And the point is that you need to define this target URL that will be able then to receive it. Now, in our case, I want to use the Power Automate flow that is going to be triggered by the HTTP request, and this Power Automate is going to be my target URL. So first, let me go to the Power Automate, and I'll create a new Cloudflow that I will trigger using this HTTP request, or the web request. Right, I'll call it AC, sorry, here, AC handler. And as a trigger, we'll be using the request. Okay, so I have to now use the request when an HTTP is received. Now, I don't know yet what body schema I want to use and so ever. What I just want to put is the response. So therefore, I will be able to actually save this Power Automate and grab this URL that I need here. Now, what is important, as you already realize, I hope, is that to actually follow me in this scenario, you need to have a Power Automate per user or per flow license, because these actions are premium. And there is, when speaking about the Power Automate as this target URL, well, there is no other way. So now I'll just grab this URL, and now I need to put this URL here so I can provide it directly. So I just copy paste like this, or I can replace this last part of the provider of the URL as the, sorry, like here, even like that. So this way I just use the regex expression, so like no matter what is going to be present after the domain, then it will be still considered as this target URL. Now, what is also important, you can as well define more these actions URLs. So you're not limited to only one, and therefore you can really create your solution having a lot of target URLs that we'll be using independently or depending on your scenario. All right, I'll just remove it. Now you can as well define the logo if you need, but let's just forget it. All right, you can as well define this additional information, so like who will be notified that you're registering this provider and with what information, but I am not going to do that, so I'll just save it. Now the point here is that once I hit save, this provider, you can see it is now pending the approval. And now once I go to my inbox, because I was and I am still here as the as an Exchange administrator on my tenant. Therefore, I received that email with information that there is this new provider pending approval, and I need to go to view this submission. I need to check all the details like an admin should do, blah, 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 blah. And right now I have to either approve or, well, decline, but I would say approved. So now it is approved. And also now once I go here, I need to remember, or I need to somewhere store this provider ID. I mean, I can always go back here and do it, so no worries. All right, so the next step is to define or design your actionable message. So your adaptive card that will be sent as actionable message. So I'll just jump back to the actionable messages designer. And here you can either start from, this blank card and you can just design it yourself, or you can choose one of the existing templates. I will start from this template, and you can as well design it either by using this actionable messages designer or by going to adaptive cards designer as well. There you can as well define or design these messages. So here is the JSON payload that I should simply copy paste and put it in the flow action to send it to my Outlook. However, what is really important is that this code here is missing some crucial information that would let me to send it. So first of all, if I navigate to the Actionable Messages documentation at docs.microsoft.com and I open the adaptive cards section, you will notice here is a part that is called the Outlook specific adaptive card properties and features. And so here you will see all the differences between the regular adaptive card that you can send, for example, to Microsoft Teams, and these adaptive cards that you would like to send to Outlook. So first, the action submit is not present here. Instead, we have action HTTP, which have its method. So here we can define whether it's a get or a post. Now, what is also important is that we need to have headers to be able to send it. And also it's important when you scroll down a bit, here, below. all right, those additional properties, additional properties on the adaptive card type, then you'll see there is a set of properties that we also can or don't necessarily need to use. For example, hide original body. This property will tell Outlook that it should hide the message that is sent along with adaptive card, so that only adaptive card is going to be visible. So we'll use this one. Plus, what is really important as must be set is this originator. Now the originator property has to contain this provider ID. So I have these two properties saved on the side. So I'll add these two properties here. So I'll say hide original body to true, so that I will hide this Outlook message. And also I need to copy the provider ID and put it here. So this is the first thing that we have to enhance. Now then you remember we had to add headers. Now speaking about the headers as we had them here, gosh, where was that? Yeah, headers, is that we need to define this content type. And what I'm also defining is the authorization, and I'm just leaving a blank value. So the contents of the headers have to be added to this action HTTP. So I'll just copy paste it and put it here. So now I have headers. So I said I'm using always the authorization that is blank and this content type application JSON. Now the next thing that is important is that this body that we can see here, it does contain errors because it is not a valid JSON. So it has to have those escaped quotations. So I need to add them here. To make this whole JSON really valid and that it will work for the flow that is going to be triggered afterwards. And last thing is the target URL. So where this adaptive card, where the contents from this actionable message is going to be sent. And this value you need to replace with the one that was generated in your blank flow. Okay, so I'll just replace it. All right, and now here you have the fully working adaptive card that you can simply copy now and add it to your new Power Automate, for example, that is going to be the one that is going to send it. So for that, I'll create a new Cloudflow. This time it will be triggered using the button, so the manual trigger. And I will call it AC trigger, the flow button. And the next step I'll just do is to put this whole code into the compose action. So that is here, present and good looking. Now the next step you have to do, again, when you look at the documentation, is the way you're able to send it. To do that, you have to go to the Get Started section and then to Actionable Messages via email to find out that there is one requirement, like how this email should be composed. And so here you can see that it does require that the adaptive card code, JSON code, is like encapsulated, surrounded by this script tags. So I'll just use this script to create a new scope action, a new compose action, sorry. And I'll just use here script and ending one. And in the middle, I'll just put the outputs from that first compose. And that's basically everything to let us have this finally working adaptive card. So the next step is I'll just say send email. And now I can send it actually to myself or to anyone else. So like maybe for the test purposes, I will send it to John Researcher. So that's the other employee in my tenant. And here, when you want to put this compose, you have to switch the body designer into the code view, get rid of all these tags, and simply put your compose as the action. So now I'll just save it. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going back to this flow that is going to actually receive the response, and I'll put here one compose action where I will be able to like just show you all the body that is going to be received from that adaptive card. In the new window, I will open the Outlook, and this time I will go to Outlook of the John Researchers. So John Researcher, okay. All right, so here is John's Outlook inbox. And right now I am ready to send this or to trigger this flow. Save and test. All right, so the flow is now triggered. Hopefully it will end up with success. Yes, it was triggered successfully. The adaptive card as actionable message was sent, and now John should already have his email. And ta-da! As you can see, this is this adaptive card sent as actionable message. So right now, John is simply able to, well, pick up one of the options, maybe Hilton, and say submit. Now, here nothing else is now happening, right? So John has responded, and the card is still visible. There was this message at the bottom that it has been completed successfully, but like nothing else is happening. And what I would like to see is that I see any kind of like confirmation that, hey, this poll is closed. Thank you for your voice. So let me just navigate back to this Power Automate and to see what we actually got from the body. So in body, we have the option and the suggestion text, right? So I can say, I'll get these two values, I get this JSON, and I'll put it here to generate this, this schema. Now, the next thing I would like to do is to simply send this response card. So here again, if you navigate back to the documentation, you'll notice that this time under the concepts, there is this option to refresh cards. So the point is that once you send an adaptive card to Outlook as an actionable message, you're able then to use these headers like card update in body with true to send in the response a new code of a new adaptive card that will be like used to replace the one that is being displayed. Okay, so let me now design a new adaptive card. I'll again load it from this draft. I'll now get rid of all these buttons because I don't need them, and I'll replace this and here I'll put another text where I will be able to like add this dynamic output. So I'll just leave it blank. And right now I can get this code, go back to my Power Automate here, and then in response, I can paste it with information back. So I'll just replace these hashes with the option. And what I also have to do, as you remember, is I need to define this header that is called card update in body. and say true. All right. So now this time when John submits the card, because, well, this card is always open until it is actually closed, like in this scenario, then John can respond again. So now once I hit this time submit, you will notice that this card is going to be replaced by the one I have just defined, right? So now I don't see options, I don't see the text field, I don't see submit button. I only see that this choice, that my selection is now completed. Done. Now I'll show you one last thing, all right? If you can stay with me, like how to make the small validation of inputs. So to make the small validation, again, we need to navigate back to the documentation. And now this time what we're looking for is hidden under this message card reference. It's legacy that is like obsolete, but it's still working. And the point I want to show you, apart from like formatting and blah, 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 and fields, is the information that we can actually use as the response, like as this reporting an action execution success or failure. Now there is another header we can use. It's called the card action status. We can use it to display this small tooltip, like a small hint in user's email or in user's message that would notify them about some kind of exceptions. So right now I can navigate back to my my handler, and I can do an action. I can add a condition that would check if the variable option is true, then if it's not empty, so if user has selected an option, then we would simply respond with this action with a confirmation message. However, if they didn't select any kind of option, because we have no like validation in the card itself, then we would send them this action status information. So I would send the 406 status code, so the failure, and I will put here the card action status header with information: you need to select the option. Nobody, like we are not going to replace the card, we're just going to show this this hint, this information. So now let me just trigger this flow again. I will run it again to send another adaptive card to John. All right, that's done. So now John has another adaptive card in his inbox. Now, if I don't select any option here and hit submit, you'll see that there is this now warning message saying that I need to select at least one option. But if I do select an option, then as previously, the card is being closed and everything works fine. All right, people, I hope that you find that video really informative and very instructive, so that you will be able to follow my steps to accomplish sending adaptive cards as actionable messages in your in your organizations. Now remember, this technology works only for Outlook. So if you'd like to send it to Gmail or other third-party email client, then it will not work. So this only works for Outlook Web, Outlook Desktop, Outlook Mobile, any kind of Outlook, but just Microsoft Outlook. And furthermore, you need to register that provider. It's crucial, it's very important, because without that, this actionable message won't be displayed to anyone else apart from you. If you have any questions, simply write them down in comments. And as always, please subscribe and thumbs up for this video. And yeah, until next time, thank you for watching.